Yeah, hi there, Trevor Davis, and we're continuing on with the unfolding of ministry and the aspects of ministry. And I wonder how to what extent we hold true to what God has called us to. And yes, you will go through difficult times, and we learned that from these things. But not to concentrate on that, for us to understand there's always another day, and there's another way, and there's another opportunity. And what can we learn from all of these things? It's really to keep our heart right with God. It's to keep in that position where we know that God, at the end of the day, He's the one that weighs the balances. He weighs the scales and He determines what's right and what's wrong. The scripture says that. It tells us that He tests the heart, or He tries the heart. He weighs the balances to see how to respond to that. So maybe you've gone through a difficult time in your life, and maybe it could be a loss of business, could be a loss of family, could be a loss, just full stop, whatever that is. But can I encourage you today, don't become bitter over that, but rather begin to hunt out and look out for God again. Make it a fresh time of really calling out unto Him, because there is another way, and He's always there to help us and to move us on. And if you want a parallel to that, you can follow through the life of Joseph. I mean, my goodness me, he's put into a pit. I mean, it's all over. It's all over. And his brothers went home and told his father he's dead, he's gone. I mean, this is all over. But look at him. I mean, he rose to tremendous heights. And you can too, even if you're experiencing a bit of a downturn in your life today. And throughout the world, we've just experienced an incredible downturn of everything because of COVID-19. And we see that many people have lost a lot of things, lost a lot of business, lost a lot of opportunity, and it's put incredible pressure on business and families and societies. Can I encourage you today that during this time of now uprising and coming out of this, that you let God be the center point of your life and follow the testimony that we can share with you today, that it's not all over when we think it is. God is always there. He's the rescuer, He's the restorer, He's the life giver, and He's the one that will close off a day or a time, and He will create a new day and a new opportunity. So a scripture you might want to have a look at it comes to my mind is in Isaiah 43, and He says, "And remember not the former things." That means that don't dwell on what is past. I mean, and I'm not dwelling on these things. I'm just helping you to understand the making of a man, or the making of a woman, the making of a ministry, and so on. And these are testing times, but they test the heart. God is interested in the heart of man. Above all else, He's interested in the heart of man. And all of these things can go to that point. I mentioned in our last one, as it came to an end, that the tax department owed us money. And so as we came to the point where we had to hand the keys over of our house, and that was sold up, and the assets distributed to creditors and so on, we had enough money to get on a plane and to return to New Zealand, which is what we did. That got us back home. That's where that came from. So thank you, ATO. This helped us to get a start of a new life. So we did that. And in doing that, we came back to Auckland, and we re-established ourselves there. Two aspects of all of this. One was a ministry aspect, where we based in a local church that had a tremendous challenge financially. They couldn't handle it. The weight of it was severe upon them, and potentially it could have closed the church up. So we stood in there and took the weight of them. After having experienced all of that, we certainly learned some ways through it. And so we carried the weight for that local church. At the same time, I was doing itinerant ministry in part, but also concentrating on a job. I secured a position. It was a national role of training and development of people. It was a skill-based training organisation. My role was to consult with business, big and small, corporates and one-man businesses. It was to discuss the areas of training, personal development, the upskilling of people, making them better to do what it is that they've been employed to do. And so that was my role. And I talked to many businesses, got inside many businesses. A lot of the experiences that I have had in the previous days and the years trained me, I guess, to be very observant and to be skilled in these areas of consultation and consulting and business and so on. And so that was my role. And I did that and I enjoyed that. During that time, as I mentioned, we did a ministry. We travelled a bit, not a lot because my responsibility of employment was a senior role. So that was a demanding role as well. So a lot of ministry locally. And then a church that experienced a challenge, if you like. Had many people broke away, asked us if we would come and help to build it up. So in the weekends we went and we built into that church and helped to rescue it, if you like, help to build it into the future, help to strengthen them. And that's part of that scripture that we mentioned before in Ephesians 4, that He's given us apostles, prophets, teachers, pastors, evangelists for the work of ministry, to build up, to edify, to encourage. And so we did that. We did that on the side, if you like, as an expression to the business role in which I had. So as we progressed and all of that, there was a time, probably maybe 18 months, 2 years in the process of all of this, somebody knocked on our door and headhunted us, or headhunted me, for a senior role of establishing a business unit inside what was a recruitment company within this country. So I was engaged to do that. It was a national role and specifically a different kind of training. And whether you know the differences here, but sometimes as we talk about skills is about training and knowing how to do what it is that you've been employed to do. So skills are more the development of your ability to do those things. There's another form of training, and it's really what we call behaviour change. Behaviour change is built around how to make us better at doing what we do. So there's one aspect of skill, but then there's the attitudinal aspects of it, and that's the behaviour. Tied into all of that was psych assessments, psychological assessment, the understanding of people, the equipping of people, identifying roles to people, and so on. And so I got involved in all of that, and that became part of my role as well. If you go back into the 90s, and whether we were in business in that time, but in New Zealand in particular, that was a very difficult time throughout our country. And the pressure came on business in a big time. The greatest pressure was in middle management, and where we had redundancies made right through our country, it came in middle management. Middle management right across our country was out the door. It just, massively. So the company that I worked for had developed a program called outplacement, which means if you became one of those casualties and you made redundant, how do you get up from that position of a sense of failure, a sense of nothing and hopelessness? How do you get up in that into a new life, a new pathway? And so my experience, I guess, in part helped me in all of that. But now, the training, the psychological assessment, the understanding of people, the consulting aspect of all of that, and now being able to sit with people. I mean, people who were devastated right through this country in incredible ways. When their whole life was shattered, it affected their homes, obviously, affected their families, all of those things. And to me, it was an absolute privilege to be able to play a role in the lives of those people, to encourage them, to work them through processes, to help them in their attitude, and to help them to find fresh vision and fresh hope and fresh purpose in their life, that they might be able to set afresh and to go and so on. So I did that, and in all of that, that was my role. And there was a national role as well that went through the country, and there were hundreds. I mean, there were hundreds of people, not just a local. You're going through it, and the phone would ring, and the next minute you're on the plane, having to travel to some other part because somebody else or a group of management and or staff or departments, they were just closed down, and all these casualties of people that now needed to be built up and find a purpose. Well, that might be a little bit about you today. And can I say this? There's a way out of this. There always is. But can I encourage you in all of this aspect of it here is to see that God is your focus. If you remain faithful to God, He is always faithful. I used to preach. I'll just give you the scripture. I might talk about it in the next snippet. But A scripture I always preached on years and years and years ago, which 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and it says this, Paul says, I pray that you be whole in spirit, soul and body. Think about that. Time's run out, so think about that. Look it up. Have it ready for our next session. I'll share a bit on that. It's powerful. I trust it's helpful to you today. Send us a note. Love to hear from you. Click on subscribe. Can you do that? I'm asking you if you would do that for us today. The Father's House might get its own channel and YouTube channel. It'd be great to have that. Would you help us with that? You pass this on to somebody, share it with somebody. Let it help them in their journey today. So God bless you, and you have a great day. God bless.